The 2022 NBA season ended with Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors hoisting their 4th trophy in 8 years, which led to a wild offseason. But now that the dust has settled for the most part, almost every marquee free agent has found a home. I'm looking at you, DeMarcus Cousins, so we have enough information to make solid predictions. Welcome to AJM in the AM. I am Anthony Mero with a predictable episode 24. We are going to drop some expectations for the divisions. I'll break it down by giving a floor for each team, a ceiling for each team, and my expectations for them. Being from New York City, we are going to start in the Eastern Conference, obviously the Atlantic Division first, and make our way out west. In the Atlantic, you have the defending Eastern Conference champs, Boston Celtics. The everybody is 6'5" to 6'9", nothing but wings Toronto Raptors. The what the hell is going on here? Brooklyn Nets. Did 3 of our starters just lose by 13 in a Pro-Am game? New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's start with the Celtics since they were the most successful last year. The Boston Celtics just had the weirdest year in NBA history last season. On January 6th, after a loss to the Knicks, the C's were 18-21 and the outside of the playoff and play-in race too. But they went on a massive tear where everything just clicked. They finished the year 51-31, and for any non-math majors out there, that's 33-10 to close out the back half of the season. In the playoffs, they really went bonkers, but they still had some glaring issues with ball control and turnovers. Between Tatum, Brown, and Smart, their 3 majority ball handlers, they averaged 9.8 turnovers per game, which only got worse in the finals, and this was a big reason for their finals loss. This offseason, the Celtics tackled that exact issue. They traded some string and paper clips to the Pacers for Malcolm Brogdon, who is a very good playmaker, a 20-point-per-game scorer, and a very efficient one at that. He was a member of the 50-40-90 club in his last mostly healthy season and has shown to be efficient on minimal touches. They also added Danilo Gallinari for some more stretch shooting off the bench while not touching a single member of their real rotation. Now, there are some questions to be answered regarding Jaylen Brown mentally after the team tried to send him off for Kevin Durant. He seems to be on the positive side of things. Winning also solves most problems. If Brogdon can give them at least 60 regular season games, which doesn't sound like a lot, but he has suffered some nagging injuries and issues over his career and hasn't played in at least 60 games since 2019. Even so, the Celtics did add another great playmaker to set up their offense, which will benefit them in the next playoff run when things bog down. Added with the improvement from their core, they may lead the East in wins. I see a floor of about 50 wins and 32 losses with a ceiling of 62-20. While rest is still prevalent in the injury history of Brogdon and Williams, I can find them in the middle ground of about 56-26. Now let's shift things over to look at the Brooklyn Nets. Championship or bust is a term that is thrown around a lot, but that's exactly what the case is and has been for Brooklyn. They traded away every asset and young player they've accrued pre-Durant and Irving and have fallen well short of a title in each of the last 2 seasons. But their team on paper is still amazing. Sean Marks traded a first-rounder and added Royce O'Neal from the Utah Jazz. They signed TJ Warren, who was a 20-point-per-game scorer and a 40% three-point shooter, to bolster their second units. They still retained most of their core role players in Seth Curry, Patty Mills, Nick Claxton, and Joe Harris, added with Kevin Durant, who, Celtics sweep aside, is still Kevin freaking Durant, one of the best players and one of the best scorers in NBA history. Kyrie Irving, who seems dedicated to basketball, at least until the next big distraction, if there is one, and potentially Ben Simmons, who, despite the flack he caught for passing up an open shot and running away from the Philadelphia situation, was still an elite defender and playmaker when we last saw him. An 80% version of Simmons is still a borderline all-star that rebounds, defends, and passes at an elite level. The issues with Brooklyn isn't their talent. It's all the questions. What's going to happen? Is KD going to be traded? If he's not traded, will he be motivated to play? Is Kyrie going to find another cause to prioritize over basketball? Is Ben Simmons actually going to suit up after missing an entire season? Or will he be even remotely good again after all the mental stuff and the recent back surgery? The Nets' ceiling is one of the best teams in the East, if not the league. If everything clicks, they can be a top team around 58-24. But if they flop, Durant quits, or just plays well below his usual levels, will it be blown up? The floor is unknown, but I'll peg them at 45-37. Winning hides most problems, and I can see all of their problems dissipating if the Nets start the season on fire. Before I go on, please hit that subscribe button to join the Ant Colony and like the video. It really helps out our channel a ton. Also, give me your thoughts in the comments below. The Knicks had an anticipated season after being really good in 2021, but they fell flat after a quick 5-1 start, missing even the play-in game. But they've answered some questions in terms of scoring by adding Jalen Brunson, who's a very good scorer, especially in isolation and around the basket. He's also a pretty underrated playmaker, and while I wasn't a big fan of his contract at first, it grew on me with their cap room and the potential cap boom at the end of the 2024 season with the new CBA. This may come back to bite them with the tampering investigation around Brunson, but they still got him. The Knicks did hang their hat on the defensive side of things, being ranked 6th in points allowed and 11th in defensive rating, which bringing back Mitchell Robinson for 4 years and $60 million, if he can solve some of those health problems, they could get even better defensively. Adding Isaiah Hartenstein was a sneaky addition too for depth and developing young talent. They now have a pretty deep roster in terms of young and mid-prime talent, with improvement from RJ Barrett, and if Obi Toppin can look like he did in the last 20 games of the season, I can see this Knicks team fighting for a play-in spot if they can get some of that 2021 Julius Randle back. And their additions are win-now moves while still adding insane draft capital. The Knicks can be a 46-win team. I believe that's their ceiling. If the injuries mount again for Derrick Rose and Mitchell Robinson, maybe the Knicks find some trade partners with their expiring contracts for more draft capital. Their floor can be around 33 and 49. More realistically, I see them breaking even at 41 and 41. Regardless though, they have a ton of future flexibility. This is a really well done job by Leon Rose. Very confusing and controversial in the moves department, but they still seem to be very well done. The Sixers are another team that may get clapped for some tampering charges with the moves they made regarding James Harden's extension and reforming the 2019 Houston Rockets in Philly, but the Sixers were already a top team out east with just Joel Embiid. Adding Harden in the middle of the season was supposed to be a shift in power for them, but it didn't turn out the way they had hoped, due partially to Embiid suffering from multiple injuries, broken face, bum knee, torn ligament in his thumb, along with Harden just running out of gas. Part of what makes them better this season is what seems to be a motivation boost for Harden. We haven't seen Harden be vocal about sacrificing for a team until now. He has been suffering from hamstring problems since his self-inflicted weight issues in 2020. Now we are 2 years removed from the initial problem, a long offseason with being in shape. Harden may have those problems behind him. They brought on PJ Tucker this offseason for a massive $33 million deal, but he is an elite three-point sniper, especially from the corner, and a dogged defender. His locker room presence is where his true value is going to be, holding stars accountable and really being a good vocal leader, something we haven't seen from the Sixers in Harden, Embiid, or Doc Rivers. Along with Daniel House for some more 3-and-D depth, improvement from Tyrese Maxey, who flashed some star potential, the Sixers can probably be the second best team out east, with 2 legitimate MVP candidates in Harden and Embiid. Most of their concerns come from health and potentially coaching in the playoffs. I'm not a big fan of Doc Rivers. If Embiid can maintain his MVP levels of play, he's only 28 years old, so I don't expect any kind of drop-off, and health can stay on their side, the Sixers look like a high 50s win team. They won 51 last year with only 21 games of Harden, where they went 14-7. With some minutes control and well-placed rest days, the Sixers should be about a 54-win team with a floor of about 49, as long as Harden and Embiid don't miss a stretch of games at the same time. Moving to Toronto, we have a weird team here. The Raptors are very awkward. They're both not in the top tier of the Eastern Conference elites, but they are competitive enough to make each and every one of their lives harder. They don't have enough superstar top-end talent, but they have a great mix of young up-and-comers like OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., who I was very depressed when the Blazers traded him here, and Precious Achiuwa, with mid-prime all-stars in Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet, with the crown jewel of this roster being Scotty Barnes, who looks like he is ready to become a true superstar in this league. Their offseason was spent re-signing vets like Thaddeus Young and stealing Otto Porter Jr. from the Warriors, just shoring up their wing depth, signing anyone who is talented between 6'5" and 6'10". But their direction is firmly planted in Barnes' development, as evidenced by their absolutely not demeanor when the Brooklyn Nets asked for him in a Kevin Durant trade. The kid just averaged 15 points, 7.5 boards, 3.5 assists, and some crazy good defense as a rookie. The ceiling for him is absolutely insane, and the Raptors know it. The next few years, I expect them to be in a strong playoff race around the 4 to 6 seed range, which would be around 45 to 50 wins, and I expect them to hit that 50 win mark this season after hitting 48 despite being 23 and 23 in late January. When things clicked for them late in the season, the Raptors looked really good. The big concern is a team solely comprised of wings. They can be abused by rambunctious, tenacious, or talented big men, which is why even in a league where wing players are worth their weight in gold, the Raptors were the worst defensive rebounding team in the entire league. The Atlantic Division is stacked with talent, but in different phases of their build. I expect the Atlantic Division to be one of the most competitive in the NBA, with 2 legit title threats in Boston and Philly, 1 looming behind drama but very capable in Brooklyn, and 2 in the midst of a proper but strong rebuilding processes. All 5 teams should be either in the playoffs / play-in range. Let me know what you think though. Are you higher or lower on any of these teams? And tell me why. Let me know in the comments below. Also, sorry for no Friday episode. Life priorities got in the way. But as always, thank you for watching. I appreciate it every time, and I will catch you on Friday.